Welcome to today's bite-sized chats with dietitian Sean Cornish and Alicia Edge. I wanted to get Sean and Alicia together because they're both in the sports nutrition space, and they both have done really innovative things, I think, during the COVID-19 space. So I thought might be nice to bring the two of them together and just hear about their experiences over the last few months, and hopefully you might get some ideas from them as well. So thanks so much for joining us, Sean and Alicia. Sean, might start with you and just maybe give a bit of a background on your business. And I should put a disclaimer out there that Sean is my personal trainer and I am not a fan of exercise, as Sean knows. And the only reason I do it is because I get to have a twice a week chat with Sean, which I absolutely enjoy and is a highlight of my week. So
it's very lovely of you to say, Marie. And we both know that exercising is not the highlight of your week. So thank you very much for the introduction, and thanks for inviting me on. I must admit, I'm a little nervous being sort of set next to Alicia, such an accomplished sports dietitian. So thank you for inviting me on. To give people an overview of our business, I run a personal training studio with my wife, Amy. Amy has a background in dance and performing arts. So before we were together and married, Amy sort of traveled the world doing that, and has expertise in that pre and postnatal space. And so when we sort of got together and realized we had this like passion, we sent me to uni, and the business supported me through uni. So moved up from Melbourne to study at QT, and then had our little studio and have been going really well ever since. Got a couple of little girls, and then my big what if was always, what if I can't train people? Because for 10 years, that's what I've done. And then that happened with COVID. So yeah, we've done a few things that have involved Amy's dance background, and then also incorporating the nutrition and the support at my end a little more into the business. And so yeah, the business has changed a fair bit from just being a physical offering to now doing things virtually. But yeah, thanks very much for having me on.
Pleasure. And what about yourself, Alicia, for those who aren't familiar with you?
Hi, everyone. So we were in a very unique position, I guess, when COVID hit, that we had already been spending the last couple of years much in the shadows, really, in terms of the tech behind what we're building. So when all this happened, it was kind of a realization that, yes, our business was going to shift. We definitely saw a pause in memberships and a reduction in conversions into clients. But we also appreciated that we were in a unique position of hopefully being able to help others and just create a purpose that we saw a real need for. We saw some of our sports dietitian colleagues losing, say, 5 contracts in a week. We saw massive reductions in, from full-time to 1 day a week. And I was just reeling with it. We were really fortunate that we were in a nice place financially, that we could just have a bit of headspace to maybe do something different. We didn't necessarily know what that looked like, but every day we meet as a team via Zoom just for a chat. We don't talk about work. Well, sometimes we do, but most of the time we don't. We talk shite with each other. See, swear word, sorry. I knew it was going to happen. And it just came up very early on, and it was like, what about webinars? Why can't we hold something that is going to create purpose and direction, particularly for the sports science scene? And then within a day or two, we're like, but also athletes, So it went from a 1-day webinar to a 2-day webinar very quickly and quite naively. And it was within 3.5 weeks, we delivered the CompEat Con. And for us, it was really important that it was never around us as CompEat. It was about hopefully giving back and hopefully providing connection and purpose where a lot had lost it. And yeah, it achieved that and so much more. And I am so grateful for everyone's just I was astounded by everyone's gratitude, but also their just how open they were to giving their time and their commitment within this. So we aimed for the stars with our conference presenters, and they all said yes. So I had a fair few tears in that because I looked up to these people a lot. And when I reached out and they're like, yeah, of course we'd be involved. I was like, oh, I didn't expect that. Oh dear. What now? So there's a lot of pressure. I think Dan was very, my my husband and co-founder, was very glad when we'd finished, because I'd been having like nightmares at night and yelling at him in the middle of the night that he needed to do this task. And he's like, that's not my job, like, get out of it. So yeah, it was a very stressful thing that I think I underestimated going in. But our team just are powerhouses, and it just goes to show that when you set a date and you get rid of your fears around just asking and possible rejection, what you can actually achieve. And yeah, I'm just astounded at what our team was able to deliver in 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, I think what I've liked about what you've both done is really focus on what are the needs of your community and like how can you help, how can you add value, and I saw you both do that, which is why I wanted to bring you together. So what else do you think you learned in that process, Alicia? I mean, 3.5 weeks to take an idea to completion is like record pace. I know what that's like, putting together an annual conference, which you did in 3.5 weeks. Like, that's incredible.
Yeah, and it's not our main role either. Like, we were doing our normal work as well. I think it was just, my biggest learning was being okay with it not being perfect. I think as dietitians, we are often frozen with the need for perfection, and I had to let go of that a fair bit to go, you know what, when things are happening this fast and this well, like, within our tech team and within our dietitian team, we're just all pulling together and just trying to do the best job we can. There had to be that we're going to have a few errors along the way, but a near enough job, if we do it well, will be good enough to make a difference. So yeah, that was probably my biggest learning.
Cool. And I know, Sean, you can relate to the perfectionist trait.
Yeah, I think, you can sit back and business plan and look at demographics and try and best guess all of these different things and try and muddle your way through managing risk for whatever step. And then when this opportunity is presented with itself and there is a real need, when you put on the empathy hat and you really think about the sort of value that we can all add in this period of vulnerability, I think that there's such excitement that comes when you actually think about that. We as dietitians know a lot about a lot, but quite often we don't get an opportunity to meet people at the right time or implement things when it's actually needed. And I think this has provided a real catalyst, because as human beings, we don't deal well with, what has been a significant period of change for everyone. And I think, congratulations to you, Alicia, on serving your community as you have. And certainly that's been the thought at our end. What is the need? How can we add value? And it's not going to be perfect, and it never will be, right at the very start. But actually sort of being okay personally with that and the growth that's come from that. Probably more from my side than Amy. Amy's really happy to just sort of laugh along and, hey guys, the tech stuffed up today. Whereas I'm like, oh my God, no one, they're all in the waiting room in Zoom. They're all in all that sort of stuff. But I think there's that humility that comes along with that learning, isn't there? Which is wonderful for all of us at a personal level.
So tell us what you did during that time, Sean. Like, what were your immediate thoughts in, those first few days when we went into lockdown and you're thinking you can't run your business anymore, you can't have a gym? Yeah. Tell us about those few days and then how you pivoted to what you've done.
Yeah, so our business is called Your Fit, and our whole sort of philosophy and mode is really about that quality of life outcome for that individual. So I know there's a lot in our space around that health at every size movement, and then there's a lot around that clinical side, and often they don't meet up. But really for us, it's really about that individual approach. And so when we looked at what we could possibly do and offer for people, I'd already had a remote part of our business. So I trained people through our own app into State, and we had a nutrition support mechanism built into that app that I'd been working on for a little over 12 months now. And while it wasn't perfect, it was something that I really tinkered with in and around sessions. And for those guys who needed a little bit more support in the business that I was seeing one-on-one anyway, we offered that as an add-on. But then it became the only way that we could train people remotely. And so the package sort of moved to be inclusive of some Zoom consultation, which is how you and I have been able to continue, with summer coming along as well, which is lovely. And then the nutrition side of things meant that all of those little things that I've learned, all of the stuff that I talk about and sort of relay to our guys around habit change and so on, that became the add-on to what was the virtual experience. And so we did that along with Amy waking up on the Tuesday after the restrictions were put in on Monday. And she just sort of said, I need to get out there and show people, you know, that we're all going to be okay. And so the Your Fit virtual studio was born, and we literally started with Facebook Live videos. And when I say we, I was upstairs with the girls doing them in our lounge room, and Amy was downstairs in our studio going hell for leather and having lots of fun to 80s tracks and doing bar classes and doing hit sessions and providing people with that nightly news that wasn't anxiety fueled, but a chance to have a laugh along with someone and depend on that relationship and know we're going to turn up for you each night. So so that quickly grew, and you know, we wrote our first cookbook and got that out to people, and we finally got, I suppose, for the first time in 4 or 5 years, an opportunity to have a little bit of time on the business as well as in it, which has provided a really unique opportunity. And so who would have thought that the nutrition support element would have been so critical and important, particularly to our business at this time, as opposed to just the exercise.
Mm-hmm. Now, I know you're very humble, Sean, so I'm going to have to share this with everyone, but I mean, Amy's Facebook Live group is like super popular. How many followers does she have now globally?
Yeah, it's grown to about 2,500 members, and the engagement stats are quite good on that. And from our perspective, I suppose, you know, just going up against the big players in that space, you know, Les Mills, the Good Lifes have got an app, F45, Fit Stop, all of those spaces have got a lot of thousands of dollars to pump into their own stuff. And really, I don't want to toot my own horn, but Amy has just done a phenomenal job in just the amount of energy that she brings to that space. And I'm as a colleague, extremely grateful, not only as a partner.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it was offered for free, which I think, you know, it's just, again, the focus and the value add for the community.
Yeah. Look, that was a call. We gave all of our guys our equipment out of the studio. So we had about 100 people we saw each week in the studio across about 80 sessions between Amy and I each week. That was our sort of mode of operation. And I do a bit of consultation online as well prior to it. But then that changed. And so we thought, how can we keep these guys active and keep these guys sane and keep these guys in some state of health, knowing the challenges that we're going to come up against? And remember, if we go back 8 weeks, we were all looking at this as being 6 to 8 months. Like we didn't know that Australia would do such a great job. So, so all of our guys got their own pieces of their own dumbbell and mat and skipping rope and whatever we could give them. And then we did it for free. And then we recognised that there was an opportunity for people to be a part of a story, not just a community, but, you know, we got 2 little girls and we're open about our knowledge. We don't muck around. We're genuine in what we know, but we genuinely wanted to show them that we are there fighting for you. And so what we did was we gave people the option after 4 weeks of running it all for free. We just gave people an option to do $9.99 of an optional payment per week. And the amount of buy-in that created within the community, knowing that they were not only being supported but also supporting, I think is another opportunity for people. And you know, there's a humility associated with that too, to say, hey, you know, we're not perfect, but it just meant that they were a part of a bigger narrative than just, you know, their own 4 walls, which I think is pretty special.
Yeah, and I think that's the common denominator with yours as well, Alicia, is people were part of something bigger than themselves by participating in your conference. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just reflecting on that pricing actually, as you spoke, because one thing we did do was something a little bit different, and we changed our to pay what you can. And it really felt very human when we made that decision, because it was like at this point in time where people were just really raw And you knew that there was this trust piece that I don't think we'd seen previously. Like, I think if we'd done that in a different time, it would have been like, I'll just pay the least amount, whatever. But it was just this like, no, I honestly feel, you know, everyone's impacted differently. I just want to give what I can and ensure that I'm providing what I feel I'm capable of. And it was just so spot on. Like, I just don't think I've ever, you know, even beyond that pricing, we got to a point, you know, early days in COVID where you'd ask, how are you doing? And you would get a real response. You know, you would get so much raw information on someone that at first was like, I didn't expect, you know, usually like, yeah, I'm going okay. But at this point in time, there was just no BS. It was like, I'm struggling, or I've lost my contract, or I'm not sure what's next for me. You know, you're getting these responses that you weren't necessarily ready for, but you at least were asking those questions. I don't know if you guys found it as well, but yeah, there was this just amazing human element in the change that we saw in those first few weeks that I think has continued. Like, and it's such a beautiful part of it that, you know, you can get some positive from this craziness. But in a sense of like, it's got this direction, and hopefully where, as you said, Sean, like everyone just wants to be a part of something and also feel like they are contributing when they can contribute.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way to put it, Alicia. Couldn't have said it better. Yeah, well said.
Oh no, you're good too, don't worry.
Alicia, I don't think you've talked about, unless I missed it, where your profits are going to as well. So you actually, were donating the funds.
We are. We really wanted to make sure that, like for us, it was just, where does this go and where does this align to? So we're currently going through applications at the moment on how to use the funds, because we did raise more than we initially thought was possible. And so it will be going towards paid positions within our industry is one of the main factors that we really want to give back on, and ensure that we're paying for you know, the dietetic and sports science profession, but also towards athlete wellbeing too, just to make sure it reflects both spaces that attended the conference. So we'll be announcing that in time. But do you know what, one thing I do want to say is it's way harder than I thought in terms of donating money. Like, it is one of those things I thought we would raise money, we would donate it, it would feel good, happy days. But it's just not that simple. It's like, you know, first of all, you want it to align to your values, but you also want to make sure it's being used how you envisage you want it to be used. And yeah, so that's been an interesting time where, but I'm also really wanting to take my time with it as well. So yeah, it's been interesting to kind of balance the pressure that I've got on myself to deliver, but also to make sure that it's going to a cause that really aligns to CompEat as well. So we're really excited to announce that, but in talks at the moment. So
yeah, we saw Celeste Barber who had the challenges with donations. So hopefully some of the laws will change as a result of all of this to make it easier for people to actually do good deeds. But I think kudos to both of you, because you've definitely put in the hard yards, and I think people recognize that. So I said to Sean, Alicia, you know, you've come to the top of my radar, which means that you're doing something that I'm noticing, which is fantastic. And I think Sean is, again, too humble to say, but he was, well, your fit with him and Amy were recognized in the Courier Mail, which is our local paper in Queensland, on the weekend. Do you want to talk about that, Sean?
Yeah, we were, again, testament to AIM. Done a phenomenal job. They made a top 10 list of the online fitness space, and there's a lot out there at the moment, very generic, not such good advice sort of stuff. So we weren't aware of it, but AIM beat Thor. She made the top 10 and beat Centerfit, which is a Chris Hemsworth creation, which was really lovely. So Your Fit Virtual Studio is number 8 on the list, which is nice. And again, pretty nice that all of those guys were charging, you know, pretty expensive rates, and something that we're offering for an optional payment. I think when I reflect back on this, you know, we think about maybe not necessarily, I really like the way you articulated it before, Alicia, but, you know, we'll be able to tell our kids that we might not have done good out of this, but it's a time, or maybe not have done so well out of this financially as businesses, but it was a time to do a lot of good. And we in the helping profession have a real obligation, I think, with what we know, to maybe just get out from under that humility rock that we all sit under, and play the nice game of sticking to ourselves, and actually get out there the world at the moment, Australia particularly, is crying out for people to help. So get out there and do it. And there's all people within everyone's circles who are listening that you'll be able to help, guys. They all want the knowledge you've got. It's just that want and willingness to actually get off. And I mean, you created a virtual conference in 3.5 weeks. Are you serious, Alicia? Unreal. Unbelievable.
Naive and silly. See, this is the thing. If I had more time to think about it, I definitely probably wouldn't have.
You just got straight into action. I'm so impressed.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't talk to you, Marie, before I decided to do it.
Yeah, you shouldn't have talked to me. So But I think the hard work pays off. You both have kids. I think Alicia 3 under 5, and I'm going to say, Sean, you've got 2 under 5. So how do you do all of this and juggle parenthood and everything else at the same time?
No.
Did you answer this, Alicia? Because I haven't figured it out yet.
No, I don't think you do figure it. And there's always this, to be fair, I think it works. Well, I feel like it works for us because I don't necessarily see a balance. I just see them so intertwined. I don't see one and then the other. It's like the kids are so intertwined into our home life, and our business is so intertwined to our home life that it's just who we are. And the kids, see what we're doing. They're part of it. I did an interview last night for a business seminar, and Ruben's just sitting right next to me, our 4-year-old, just because he happened to walk in and decided he didn't need a shower at that point and decided to come on into this business thing. And you're like, you know what, people are going to realize that this is real life. And, I think the biggest part is just making sure that you feel like you're everything to everyone. And that's probably the biggest pressure I find that I struggle with, is that if I feel like I'm doing well in parenting, I generally feel like I'm failing our team. Or if I'm doing really well with CompEat, I feel like I've got that. The kids aren't getting as much attention, and I just don't know if there's an answer of how it works. You just do so much more than you ever thought you were capable of, I think. You realize a new definition of busy, and you realize a new definition of fatigue, and you've got to be really forgiving and of yourself, and also just of things sometimes just falling under the line, I call it. But yeah.
I know you can relate, Sean.
Yeah, I take my hat off to you. How we're the same in our business with our little tackers. We've got a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and Grace and Alice are just a big part of it. And I think philosophically, at the big picture level, it all does work in harmony. The girls see mum and dad working really hard, and I suppose, if I'm honest, I'd probably wear a bit of a feminist tag. Having daughters and having them have an opportunity to see their mum in lights and really see her achieving is a big thing for me. And I suppose for us, this has been a great opportunity to have that. And also the fact that this has meant I can't, most of my days used to start at 4:45. So my alarm was going off at 4 a.m. and I would wake the girls a lot. I'd try to be a bit of a, a ninja in the early hours of the morning, but you always clang a plate or do something. And so that has meant, now my alarm goes off at 6 and the girls run into bed and give a cuddle. And so there's been this beautiful side to just stopping to and not being as manically busy. But I think, that dad that I am and the husband that I am also makes me a far better practitioner and dietitian and provides a lot better empathy for that mum that's dealing with the priorities that we can't fit it all in. Something has to give, but it doesn't have to be your health, does it? Those are the conversations that I'm often having.
And you both work with your partners, so can you tell us the tips on how you make that work? Alicia?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a lot. Like, how are you a thing? Like, how does that even work? We spend a lot of time together, and I think, this was something that Dan said a few years ago. He's like, one day I'm going to work for CompEat. And I was like, you earn most of the money in this relationship. Like, there's no way that is ever going to happen. Like, he's a chemical engineer and then also went into asset management. And it was always like, don't be ridiculous. You just want to be an athlete and just do some side gig. You're not coming to CompEat. And the day he quit his real job was probably the scariest moment of our lives. Like, it was collapse on the bed. What the hell have we done? This is the biggest thing, like to not have a financial safety net. And that was now a year and a half ago. And it was like, yeah, it was full on, to be honest. Like, and I think because our families had always had that 9 to 5 kind of role, it was this discomfort that we were feeling, but also everyone we loved was feeling that discomfort as well, of like, I don't understand what you guys are doing. Like, you're a startup, you work all hours, you've got kids. We had 2 kids at that stage. I don't understand it, because they didn't understand. It was just so well out of their comfort zone of like, they just wanted the best for us. So for us both, working together, it's been a learning experience in the best possible way. And I think it's because we've both got an obsession with solving a problem. And because we've got this common issue that we want to solve, we're both obsessed in the most positive way of like always just wanting to do better and work on it together and collaboratively. So we'll catch ourselves like on a Friday night chatting about, you know, the dietitian profession or the tech scene, and be like, oh God, here we are again. So it does creep into obviously all facets of our life. But because it's just a passion of ours, it just works. I also say that I think if Dan was a dietitian, we probably would have killed each other by now. We've got very different skill sets. So I think that's probably what makes it work as well, is that my space he doesn't really impinge on, and I'm not very good at his space and I don't really enjoy it. So I don't really impinge on that either. So we do definitely balance each side. And I think that is probably what helps it work as well.
Does he do the marketing side, or do you do that?
Marketing. That is a new thing for us. We have not really marketed yet. So we are getting into that, and that is a learning experience as well. So marketing for us has really just been present on social media, and that's
I think you're doing a good job.
That's it.
Yeah, because I was going to say engineer marketing. I was kind of like,
He's starting to take over now, which is nice. So he's doing the marketing data side, and I'll just continue to see. I annoy him because I'm very unplanned with my social mediaing. I just write whatever I'm feeling, and he's like, "Did you plan that?" I'm like, "Nope, sorry."
he needs to give you the plan to implement then, maybe.
Yeah. So yeah, we actually just had a meeting right here, starting to do our marketing. So that's something that we haven't allocated budget to previously. So we're about to start to do that. But so he's like, we just balance, I guess. We have little niggles, but mainly it's due to sleep deprivation more than business. Once our 9-month-old starts sleeping, that would be amazing. I think it's what we could accomplish.
Goodness me.
I know Sean can relate on that one too.
So
how do you make it work, Sean?
It's interesting. So we train a lot of couples in our business. My sort of our general sort of mode is that Amy will end up starting with the wives, and then I end up training the husbands, and then doing the nutrition support. And so we have an opportunity to reflect with and after sessions with clients to sort of see what works and what doesn't. And I think for Amy and I, you know, if we go back to the start of our relationship when Amy initially moved up, we've never really known any different. We've always worked together. And then I had the gig, which was, you know, a management role and pretty high stress and high pressure. And then we did a bit of reality TV stuff in 2013 where we worked really closely together. And I sort of realised what I was missing out on. You know, she's a lot of fun and really brings out the best in me, I think. I'm someone that does put a lot of pressure on myself and really high expectation. But when that's balanced with a lot of laughter and fun and frivolity on the other side, I think it works really well. And I think you do need to have that right partner, and I certainly wouldn't recommend it to everyone to work with their partner. But certainly for us, I think it's been a really good balance. But prioritising time for us as a couple, I think, has become a lot more of a priority for me as I mature and look at life beyond just the next 5-year business plan, and try and understand, you know, where we're headed, and making sure that those how elements of the way we live, you know, getting to appreciate some really good food and having a coffee together and those things are an important part of those daily rituals, I think, that we try and maintain, that quite often take precedence over the business, and also sometimes, you know, you end up talking about kids, but you just need to try and make that a priority in your day, I think.
And I forgot to mention, we should remind people that you and Amy were on My House Rules, right? So for anyone that Sean looks familiar,
Yeah,
Might
that's
be
right.
where
That
it was
was
from.
a lot of grey hair ago, and a whole post-traumatic stress disorder. No, I'm joking. But yeah, that was the sort of start of the Amy and Sean sort of story, and I've been running away from the limelight ever since, but it keeps trying to track me down, unfortunately.
Yeah,
So
you'll end up back there, don't worry.
unfortunately, might be the case.
So just to end on, Alicia and Sean, what have been some of the silver linings of this time, and what do you really want to, there's a lot of things that I want to take from this time and keep doing post-COVID. What would you say that is for you, Alicia?
For me, I think it's really been that appreciation of just letting go of that transactional mindset. That it's not about that at all, and it's rather about just adding value and finding connection and allowing just this connection to grow into something so much bigger than you ever would have thought about if you kind of just stopped at what's in it for me. It's just taking that away completely and allowing creativity in a space of just forced change. And it's like, well, we don't know how long this is going on for. We don't know what the implications of this are, but how can we create and adapt and allow that pause to launch us into a different direction or a better direction than what we would have been otherwise.
Yeah, I love that. I love the time for the creative space. Yeah. What about you, Sean?
I think to sort of firstly on Alicia's point, definitely, how can we add value rather than what's in it for us? And that wasn't really a big part of our mindset anyway. But you speak to business coaches or you read the latest blogs or whatever, and all of them are about the bottom line and increasing profits and blah blah blah. But when you actually get outside yourself and you think, really put on that empathy tag, which in a lot of our, the strength analysis and whatever, that's a big part of both of our strength sets, that empathy and kindness and social intelligence. When you play to those strengths and you actually sit in the seat of that person that's, there by themselves in their apartment and they haven't gone outside for 3 days and they're just beside themselves, okay, well, we can add value there. We can, this is a big beast, but when we actually just think about that person properly and break it down, how can we actually do that? And then I think the other thing is that there does need to be some creativity. You need some time to work on the business and yourself, rather than, I work with a lot of solicitors and doctors and people that are constantly giving of their time, and there's a bottom line and an attachment to that transaction that Alicia mentioned. And I'm always advocating, guys, you can't pour from an empty cup. We've got to breathe in. I can't keep just giving you intervals on the rower and hoping that the endorphins get you through today, because you've got to have a moment to actually pause and stop. And I think for us as a family and as a business, this has been a unique opportunity to do that. And you don't know yourself out the other side of that pause and that action or that learning or that experience. You might think, or you might imagine, or you might hope, but once you actually go through that experience, then you start to get an understanding and a bit more self-aware. And I think that's certainly been a lot for me.
So those of you who know me can know why I want to chat to Sean every day. We have some really deep and meaningful conversations like he's just described there. And I look forward to, I'm just getting to know you, Alicia, so I look forward to meeting you in person at some point post-COVID.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thank you so much for your time, and kudos to both of you for just making the most of this, really challenging time. I think you've done a fantastic job, and I wish you nothing but the success for you and your businesses moving forward over the coming months and years, and look forward to seeing what this creative time leads you to even bigger and better things. So well done, and thank you for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Nice to meet you, Alicia.
Oh, you too, Sean. Thank you so much. We're really looking forward to working together in the future.
Yeah, it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.